Hello, it's Matt O'Leary, and it is magic time right now. We got Christmas coming up. We got those year-end lists coming up, which I know you're pretty jacked for. But believe it or not, a few much anticipated albums for me came out during this month. So I thought I'd cover them and give them, what they deserve when they're really not going to get it when they come out in December. A little bit of exposure, a little bit of attention. So I'm going to cover a few of them. And here we go. This first one, it would have been much anticipated if I would have heard just one single mention of it. Yeah, this was a shocker. So about a week after it came out, I'm like, May has a new album? May? That May? Yes, indeed. M-A-E, May, the marginally Christian rock band from Virginia that put out one of the purest and one of the catchiest rock albums you're ever gonna sing in your parents' Buick driving to high school in 2009. This is the first album they put out in 8 years. It's the self-titled Multisensory Aesthetic Experience. And the reason I say they're sort of on the margins of that very cringy, at times, Christian rock genre is because their music's always been so unironically optimistic and clean and inspirational. And some of that out of touch with reality, gushy, overly sentimental stuff does resurface on this album. The lyrics a lot of times return to this very wishy-washy theme of openness and non-judgmental love, which tends to feel a little bit like Hobby Lobby sign fodder, like on the song Sing. And Dave Elkins gives us the rap we never asked for on the song The Overview, which sounds a little bit like Weird Al. His voice has always had this very warm glow to it, which sort of toes the line between romantic and Owl City. But a lot of that is very low-hanging fruit. It's very easy to criticize. There is a lot to enjoy about this album. And that comes through on some of the unpredictable song structures and mood changes that really made some of their earlier work, like the May EPs, so gratifying. Like on the song You Fall When You Hesitate, which moves from this very icy and sleek and almost ambient track into this funky wah-wah guitar breakdown. Or the epic Our Love Is a Painted Picture, which starts off with a pretty predictable progression going back and forth from 1 and 4, but it's lovely, it's very simple, and moves into this jazzy build with glimmering strings and a huge, big payoff climax at the end. The best transition on the album, though, comes on the song Kaleidoscope, which I think it's more than halfway through, moves from this snoozy, muffled club beat into this very snappy, almost Motown-inspired instrumental. It's very well produced and it's very unexpected. All the auxiliary and the MIDI instruments on this album were intriguing from the get-go. They really made me think there was something more to this album that, as I went along, I discover more nuance along the way. But my experience of this thing has been almost the exact opposite. It seems that the more I listen to it, the more that initial intrigue just sort of fades. Like the dark, introverted, mysterious girl you had a crush on and then realized she only talked about Netflix and her pug. It's pleasant, I guess, and I really wanted to like it, but I'm just not finding a lot of depth here. I think probably a 6 on this one. That brings us to the absolute musical prodigy that is Jacob Collier. Composer, arranger, singer, producer, multi-instrumentalist. The 24-year-old does it all, and he does it all freakishly. And that's why he's collaborated with the likes of Herbie Hancock and Hans Zimmer, and even has Take 6 featured on a track here. His first album, In My Room, is a can't miss, just I go back to it all the time. It's so dense, it's so lush, it just sparkles and dazzles and thrills all the way through. Hideaway is one of my favorite songs ever. There's no comparison to just the euphoric ending of that thing when the melody comes back in and just it's one of those moments that really makes you reflect on the miracle of humanity and just our great capacity for creation, and that's not an overstatement. So how is he possibly going to match that? Now that he's explored every square inch of his room, on Djesse he sets off to explore the whole wide world. You get bits and pieces and influences from all over the globe, and this is only part 1 of a 4-part, really adventurous album project. When I was looking into colleges in the first place, I actually considered studying voice and decided against it, obviously, but choral music has always been super close to me. I grew up in choir and singing, and now that I'm a counselor at a school. I lead an a cappella group there, so those choral tones have always just sounded better than just about anything to me. So the way he opens this album is right up my alley. Home Is a very Eric Whitacre sounding track that has that haunting maximalist sound and kicks off the album on a really chilling and alluring note, while Overture brings in this menacing low rolling timpani that's just so soft, so quiet, and then these huge, just super extremely produced stacks of vocals. Then the orchestra finally flaps its wings and gives us the whole range of the instrumental palette in just a minute or two. The song has a very appropriate Christmassy vibe with the brass and marimbas. Collier's working here with the Dutch orchestra Metropole Orkest, who worked on another album that's an absolute favorite of mine, Silva by Snarky Puppy. And Collier's doing stuff here that no one else is doing, obviously. Like, every part is made up of about 20 tracks on Logic. And the single With Love in My Heart is the pinnacle of that maximalism. He made this insane video of him explaining the recording process and describing almost every single one of the over 700 tracks on this song. He had to use 2 Logic sessions just to hold it all, because I think there's a max limit on the amount you can have. And he has like folders of tracks. You'll see it, just watch it. He explains how everything aids in the emotions and the feel of the song. It's really great. His computer had like 128 gigs of RAM. He took a bunch of Instagram videos that his fans made of them stomping and clapping, making some simple beat, and then combined them all and compressed them and drizzled some effects on top and then threw them in here. That care, that connection, that detail makes this song such a fascinating spectacle. It's got that fun Stevie Wonder sort of energy to it, and stylistically it's all over the map. There's massive jazz funk and polyrhythmic dance beats and some soft isolated piano and voice. You get the full range of Jacob Collier in this one song. He's frantic and explosive in one moment and soft and serene in the next. There are a few areas though where this album falls short of In My Room, in my opinion. The melodies, first off, are not quite as gripping and memorable, and also the covers aren't as good this time around. He does Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic and All Night Long. They're technical feats, no doubt, but I feel like they deflate the album a little bit overall. Some of Jacob's most intense productions are on this album, like Everlasting Motion, but also some of the sweetest and most delicate songs, like Once You and what's the other one? Ocean Wide, Canyon Deep. As much as I love the pure visceral sound of this album, you know, just a snapshot of one of the songs, I don't feel like the songs really develop or go as far as I'd like them to. The title track and Once You are perfect examples of this, where they just sound delicious, but structurally they just kind of run out of steam as they go along, and hopefully as time goes on I'll catch on to the subtleties, but not yet. This thing ended up really whetting my taste buds for the future of Djesse, but not being a fully nutritious, fulfilling meal on the whole, so 7 out of 10. And wrapping things up here and putting a bow on it and other Christmas puns is the 4th LP from the University of Michigan sprung funk pop band Vulfpeck. I like to call this band the perfect hybrid of silly and studious, the kings of the 2/5/1 funk cadence. The album leads off with 4 Theo Katzman songs, so all sung by him and written by him, I'm guessing. And I can't help but feel like they don't capture the energy of one of his live performances and the power and dynamic of his voice there. And I think Vulfpeck on the whole is that way. You know, their studio efforts don't quite capture the magic and the energy of the live performance. The songs Darwin Derby and Lost My Treble Long Ago feature some of the best of Joe Dart's springy bass lines, which is the unquestionable best element of Vulfpeck, which I feel like the bass should be with funk, with some very scientifically questionable thoughts and insight on Darwin's evolutionary theory. The one spoken word part on this album is just only significant because of how awkward and bizarre it is. The songs Love is a Beautiful Thing and Lonely Town are some live staples, the latter having some nice ragtime piano and Theo's romantic crooning. I love the Monica Martin feature on Love is a Beautiful Thing too. That just effortless mezzo-soprano voice. You just can't go wrong. And if you want some more of her, you got to check out the band Fox. They have one album, but it's really good. And then the more electronic-based album, Awaken Pretty Much Sober by Violence. The front half of this album, Hill Climber, focuses more on pop structure, while the back half highlights the band's instrumental chemistry, which they've developed over the years of playing together. You can expect the same proficiency and instantly groovable songs, but the production is even tidier and more claustrophobic than any previous Vulfpeck. And I don't quite like how clean these songs are. The bass and the drums especially are missing some of that kind of surround level imaging, you know, that old analog funk albums from like 50 or 60 years ago had. The second half of the album does drag a little bit and serves as a mildly interesting change up to your Christmas party playlist. Overall, Hill Climber feels like the result of a lack of competition in the marketplace of whiter than white boy soft funk. Vulfpeck clearly has the monopoly on this sound, but I wish there were some more contemporary bands and funk groups that were driving Vulfpeck into more adventurous territory. They seem just a little too comfortable at the top, and their music on this album is missing some of that creative spirit and raw energy that their first few demos and first album had. So 6 out of 10 for me for Vulfpeck. Alright, that wraps it up. So let me know what you think of these albums. Then I got some really exciting lists coming up. We got of course, the grand finale top 30 albums of 2018. Then I'm also going to do a most disappointing albums of this year. Maybe some others if I'm feeling up to it, if I have enough time. So stay tuned, and as always, thank you so much for watching.